Hi folks, with Tacitus today, your pushback channel, and thank you for joining this audio, radio, no pictures live stream. Please listen to this essay in your car or your truck or public transport as you're going along. Now, in this essay, I'd like to talk about the two documentaries I saw, supposed documentaries about Mohamed Ali, or Cassius Clay as he was known previously. Now, for those of you who don't know, he was probably one of the most successful boxers of all time, and in incredible natural ability and so on. And he's sort of a towering figure, if you like, in that sport, and including winning like Olympic gold medals and so on. So anyway, in these documentaries, there's a lot to talk about. With this, such an iconic sports individual, and when I saw the document, they weren't that long, about an hour long, I guess. When I saw that, I thought this could be interesting. It'll talk about how he came through the sport and how he trained and how he prepared in terms of his exercise, his diet, and his thoughts on different boxing matches he'd had and all this sort of stuff. So I thought this could be interesting. Anyone that's reached that level of accomplishment, not only needs natural ability, but natural talent, but they have to work pretty hard at it as well. So that sort of thing certainly interests me anyway. And so I thought, wow, I'll have a look at this. But instead, the first few minutes, we have a look at, they have black rights marches, Black Panthers. They've got 1950s black rights, Jim Crow. Then there's shots of the Ku Klux Klan. There's this and that. This is because Cassius Clay was black, of course, but they just go full on, straight out of the gate into the race, hustling and oppressed black people, evil white people oppressing black people. There wasn't a kind word to say about white people in either documentary, and all it talked about was black oppression and so on. So let me just go through this now. For those of you who don't know, Cassius Clay was. I think he won an Olympic gold medal in the early 1960s and went on to become a professional boxer. And even at a quite young age, in his early 20s, he'd won the world championship, which was no mean feat because the field was pretty crowded with good quality boxers in the day, and Floyd Patterson and so on. So. He was Cassius Clay, known as Cassius Clay there, and then he changed his name. He got caught up in the black Islamic activist movement of the 1960s, and so changed his name to Mohamed Ali to reflect his Islamic faith, or recently acquired Islamic faith. And he was making actually quite a few activist speeches back then, but the media seemed to hide them or play them down at the very least. And so, during the day back in those late 60s era, you would have only seen the sportsman or the athlete, and the activism would have been again downplayed. But one of these documentaries was a whole lot of black people, black politicians, black millionaires, rich black boxing promoters, very influential, well-off black people, all coming along talking about how oppressed black people are. And yet these are some of the most privileged and wealthiest people in the United States, black, and they're all of them black, all saying how oppressed black people are. Anyway, let's have a look at again Cassius Clay. Now, Cassius Clay was this black guy. He's like 6'3". He's a fit guy, incredible natural ability, sense of timing, fitness, all this sort of stuff that makes him a natural. In this case, a boxer. But he probably could have done a lot of other sports. Now, He's just an amateur boxer in like one of the local sort of boxing clubs, but he gets spotted by a white talent scout, and hey, this kid's got something here. So a consortium of white um, investors, if you like, sports people in the sporting area, think that he's got real potential. So they put their money together, and this is for him to get more professional training. So they pay for the professional trainer. They're talking about the diet he should be on, the exercise regimen. They want him to compete in tournaments around the United States. So they pay for all his travel and accommodation, and minders to look out for him, and so on. So he's they're investing a lot of money in him, and they're all white, these people. It's all white people that get him into the Olympic Games to win a gold medal in boxing there. So all the people supporting him and turning him into a successful boxer and a champion, they're all white. His trainers, everybody. So I'd love to see where the oppression is here. But he then becomes, I can't remember the year, somewhere around the mid-60s, he becomes the world boxing champion, and clearly very, very talented in that field, very talented guy. Again, incredible sense of timing and so on. And all the promoters that are putting him up there are all white. So he's completely, but then he gets captured by, again, these Islamic activists, people that really go in and infiltrate the black community and the Black Panthers, and getting into all that sort of stuff. A lot of talk about the Soviet communist Marxists defunding these guys, but I don't know. It's the evidence is there, but it's been on the patchy side. So you have Cassius Clay running around. So well, I'm going to change my name because Cassius Clay is the name given to me by the slave owners. That's a slave name. Why would I keep a slave name? And now once you get away, I mean, he was quite good on his quips and so on, but you realize he's actually not a very bright guy, and he's got quite a simplistic, if not childlike, view of the world and a view of reality. Certainly, if you look at his utterances, this doesn't mean he's any less of a boxer than or an athlete than he was, but you can see how it would have been quite easy for these black Islamic activist groups, of which people like Malcolm X was associated with, if not directly, certainly indirectly, and if you consider the activism at the time, Martin Luther King, all that sort of stuff, it was certainly an era of high drama and high racial tension. So because he was such an iconic guy, Cassius Clay, you can see how they would have targeted him, thinking, we want someone this iconic on our side, because it lends credence and credibility to our movement, and again, movements that had personalities like Malcolm X around. So now they gave, he changed his name to Mohamed Ali, Cassius Clay to Mohamed Ali. So they gave Mohamed Ali line talking points to mention, which he did beautifully, and talking about slaves all the time and slavery and black people were fighting back as well, which is a bit rich, given he was a complete and total creation of white people, but it was their talent spotting, their money, and their connections, their promotion, everything. He owed everything to white people. But the way he spoke, you'd think he was the most oppressed guy on the planet, which is, of course, quite absurd. But he parroted and spouted that sort of stuff, which seemed to, I don't know, I don't know why it was tolerated at the time, but why would he speak so openly against the white society that had made him rich? It just seems that. But nonetheless, that was how it was. Now, he was then drafted into the army to fight in Vietnam. He refused to go, and so there were various penalties. Some people have been put in prison for that. I don't think he got any prison time, but he was the world champion, and he was all the boxing commissions of the United States stripped him of all the titles and things that he held, and that was for 3 or 4 years approximately. And then he made a comeback, and was still a great boxer. And he I think he made a comeback in 1971, I think it was, and he had a few ups and downs, but by 1974 he'd regained the world championship boxing championship, and he sort of passed into legend, I guess, at that point. But his activism continued. He was around making speeches, none of which made a whole lot of sense. His money management skills were about zero. He liked to have an entourage of flunkies so he could tell crummy jokes, and they all had to laugh on cue and this sort of thing. But he seemed to go through money like it was being pissed up against the wall big time. But given his earning capacity, being a champion boxer, and the sort of purse that these guys were getting, you'd think, well, it must be impossible to burn through that money. Yet there were times when this incredibly talented boxer and champion boxer was on the bones of his ass financially. And champion boxer was on the bones of his ass financially. It seems inconceivable, but there you are. So really, it focused on the activism. The way that it was portrayed was that Ali or Clay, Ali was being blocked and held back at every turn by evil Whitey, when the reality was the opposite. They were making out that he was naturally organic. It all happened organically, that he was a spokesman for the oppressed black people. That was bullshit. He was targeted. He was cultivated. He was given his lines to read. And again, he's not that bright a guy. His head was filled full of stuff that he couldn't even comprehend, but he regurgitated the lines he was given and just became they turned him, and I'm disappointed with this. He's a great athlete, okay, not very bright, but a great athlete, and they turned him into a propaganda conduit. He was nothing more to them. He was nothing more than a propaganda delivery system, and I think it's a terrible shame, a crying shame, that they would take such a talented athlete and use him for those purposes simply because of his well-known iconic status. I wanted to remember him as an incredibly talented, high-achieving athlete and sportsman. I want to perceive him in that way. But whether he's black or not, I don't care. That doesn't mean that he didn't achieve those things and accomplish those things. So I wanted to, I'd like to remember him that way. And so I felt rather disappointed and upset's maybe too strong a term, but certainly disappointed that they focused in these documentaries simply on the activism and ginning up and inventing, telling terrible lies in it as well, and completely ignoring that he was created. He existed as an icon only because white people spotted his talent and invested in him. Without that, he'd just be some black nobody running around, in some bullshit one-horse town. So this is the thing. A great talent who was, I think, misused and abused by the activist race hustling cabal, and they're still doing it today to this great athlete. And I think that's the tragedy here. You've been with Tacitus today, your Pushback channel. Thank you for listening.